did you hear about Operation Arctic Frost? The Kash Patel hearings in the Senate and the House over the last couple of days were utterly dominated by these dramatic, and I actually would say almost unprecedented. You can never really say unprecedented in the history of the US Congress, but in recent memory, for as fiery as congressional hearings have gotten, the dust-ups between Kash Patel and Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, and actually Senator John Kennedy, Republican Senator John Kennedy, had a good exchange with Kash Patel on Epstein. These explosions were wild. And in all of the craziness, one thing that got a bit lost is the news of Operation Arctic Frost. As I mentioned, what could that be? What could Operation Arctic Frost be? It's a great code name. Catherine Herridge has some more on this. She got exclusive whistleblower records, and Senator Chuck Grasley talked a bit about what we know ahead of Kash Patel's hearing at the Senate Judiciary on Tuesday. But basically, I'm going to read from New York Post coverage here. An FBI investigation launched in the wake of the 2020 election scrutinized nearly 100 Republican and GOP-aligned groups or people, including Turning Point USA, co-founded by slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Unclassified bureau files released Tuesday show Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley published files related to the probe, codenamed Arctic Frost, during a panel hearing, saying the records revealed Arctic Frost was much broader than just an electoral matter, and that the investigation, quote, expanded to Republican organizations. Some examples of the groups that Christopher Wray, former head of the FBI, sought to place under political investigation included the RNC, the Republican Attorneys General Association, and Trump political groups, according to Grassley. Deeply disturbing, by the way. Think about it like this way. Democrats orchestrated, I'm going to quote here from the Time magazine piece that Molly Ball wrote, uncritically promoting it. Molly Hemingway, my former boss, my friend, has covered this many, many times. She wrote a whole book called Rigged about it. But this is how Molly Ball described what happened in 2020 in Time magazine. Quote, she said, a well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. That's what Democrats orchestrated in 2020 to the favor of Biden. Even Mark Zuckerberg has since conceded, yes, it does. It happens as Mark Zuckerberg is trying to cozy up to the Trump administration. There's no question about that. But Mark Zuckerberg has conceded that some of the research does show this money was flooded disproportionately, you guessed it, into blue America. And that obviously greatly benefited Joe Biden. So think about it that way. I mean, this is just so profoundly disturbing, and it's barely a peep about this in the media. It's a very crowded news cycle, but this story is so significant because Democrats openly had that, quote, well-funded cabal, bragged about it in Time magazine, and then subpoenaed people for questioning the outcome of the election based on a, quote, conspiracy investigation. And again, I am saying that as somebody who thinks Trump was, like, to say the least, completely reckless. Trump and others were completely reckless with their claims of, quote, fraud back in that election. The directions that various people went in, I think, were beyond dangerous and disappointing. And all of that is, the amount of flack that I took when I was reporting literally live from the Capitol on January 6th, expecting to cover what happened at the Ellipse. I walked over with the crowd, and everything, all hell broke loose, basically. I mean, it took plenty of flack for reporting on that at the time, and for covering it critically at the time. And I think the way that certain people on the left have said it was worse than, was Steve Schmidt, I think on MSNBC once said it was like worse than 9/11. He said something to that extent, worse than 9/11. Or like, that stuff was insane and ridiculous. And Dems obviously abused their power, congressional power, and otherwise in their investigations. And this is clearly a case of that, when you have the left openly bragging about having a well-funded cabal flooding Democratic districts to basically to tip the scales in the election with money. This is, by the way, what Citizens United, all of the libs with Citizens United stickers on their Priuses, This is why they're concerned about Citizens United. When you talk about like the most basic principle of why people oppose Citizens United, which is that billionaires shouldn't be able to buy elections. Okay, that's basically what the billionaires were bragging about to Time magazine in 2020. And then the people who said something about it got subpoenaed in a conspiracy investigation. And again, that's not to say there aren't real concerns about what was said in the wake of that and how seriously these pretty thin charges of fraud were treated and hyped up. But they were bundled into a fucking RICO case by Fani Willis in Georgia. Like, well, RICO? This is a RICO case? A RICO case. I feel like I'm doing talking about practice? That's what I feel like we're doing right now. But truly insane that we're learning. I mean, it's not insane that we're learning it because it's like pretty predictable. It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, Catherine Herridge's reporting shows from these whistleblower records, the FBI white paper details the extraordinary scope of this Arctic frost investigation into President Trump. It described a, quote, multifaceted conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Again, I remind you, the left was openly bragging about a, quote, multifaceted conspiracy to influence the results of the 2020 presidential election, and says investigative steps taken, interviews, over 150 conducted, subpoenas, over 400 served. Over 400 served. Their lines of effort included false fraud claims, false elector schemes, false lawsuits, state pressure, false DOJ letters / Jeff Clark, financial fraud, pressure Pence and the Eastman plan. Listen to that. The pressure Pence and the Eastman plan was part of a conspiracy effort. The electors, which we all remember Democrats challenging over the years as well, that is what got you potentially swept up in this multifaceted, this as the FBI put it, multifaceted conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Turning Point Action, Turning Point USA were caught up in this. And the records are now being released by Kash Patel, who obviously has some pretty serious motivations to be releasing some red meat like this. And I'm glad he's doing it. Recently, I learned about colostrum. Have you heard about colostrum? I always want to do a Trump impression when I'm talking about, known as liquid gold that babies receive from their mothers after birth. It's packed with proteins, natural growth factors, antimicrobial peptides that work to enhance your immune response, reduce inflammation, repair and balance gut lining, reduce bloating, and make your hair and skin look amazing. Today's sponsor, Cowboy Colostrum, offers the highest quality cow colostrum available in the U.S., 100% made in America from 100% American grass-fed cows. They're the best cows, folks. They don't overprocess or strip their colostrum, leaving it whole, full fat, and high protein for ultimate nutrient density. It is the highest quality bovine colostrum you can buy, and it's easy to drink, made with delicious natural ingredients and no artificial flavors. It really is easy to drink. Simply add a 3 gram scoop of either the chocolate, Madagascar vanilla, or strawberry in your coffee or smoothie, or actually even in milk. It's really tasty. For a limited time, our listeners get up to 25% off their entire order. Just head to cowboycolostrum.com/afterparty and use code AFTERPARTY at checkout. That's 25% off when you use code AFTERPARTY at cowboycolostrum.com/afterparty. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Say, I came from After Party for the best cows.